everyone. Welcome to another episode of ARG Presents. I'm your good buddy, your good pal, Amigo Aaron, joined by a man whom, after doing some studying for today's show, may also be some sort of game console. I give you the Brent.
Man. I'm excited about this one, Aaron.
This is a weird one.
Yeah.
This is a weird one.
This has all the hallmarks of a failed console.
Yeah.
I mean, it's just hit after hit after hit.
Yeah. You know, we had to get away from the apricot last week because the emulation just wasn't there. And so
well, we begged off.
Lo and behold, we jumped out of the frying pan and into the bear trap. As we looked at this week's game, it's the Nuon.
Who cooks over a bear trap?
Hey, listen, the people at Nuon did. That's who. We're going to be looking at one of the more obscure, unknown, wacky ideas that I've ever heard of. Brent, before we get started and dug in, what do you know, or what did you know about the Nuon?
Zippo.
Zippo?
Did not know this existed.
I knew of the Nuon, but I did not know what the Nuon was. I'd heard its name whispered in the realm of retro game collecting, although I would say I doubt it's a huge collectible, which we'll get into. I mean, I guess you could complete the set pretty easy. Let's get into it. Let's just not screw around here. Let's get right into it, Brent. So we're looking at the Nuon here. Now, the Nuon is an odd machine, okay? So
Machines.
Yeah. Released in July of 2000. Your mileage will vary on that.
Yeah.
And it was developed by an outfit called VM Lab. So let's get into a little bit of backstory about this wacky contraption. So Nuon was teased a few times, a few years before it was released as an item that was codenamed Project X. It was in EGM. I vaguely remember reading something about this in one of your EGMs back in the day. And a lot of the guys that worked for VM Labs, except almost the majority of the people that ran VM Labs, were ex-Atari hardware people that were fresh off of the Jag, the Atari Jaguar. And so the way the narrative is taught, the people at Atari that left were like, listen, we can make a console. We have the Jack, but Atari dropped the ball, and we're going to pick the ball up. We're going to run with the ball.
Yeah, this was a very classic. We can do that better.
Right. And so, because they didn't like the way the Jaguar went down, I think we could all agree that the Jag was a disaster of a console.
Well, I don't know. I mean, it depends on what you compare it to.
Yeah, that's a good point. You got a valid point there. Amongst the people that were behind VM Labs was the ever popular, out of his mind nut job Jeff Minter, who is as brilliant as he is crazy. And so Jeff Minter was also down in the trenches on this thing. And so they took a different approach. Anytime you hear me say that, not good.
Yeah, well, they took a similar approach to another console that also failed.
Well, it's funny. I was watching Adam Kurlick. I love that guy's stuff. And he tried to explain what this thing was. And the way he described it, this is apt. He says, what would happen if you took a 3DO, the PlayStation 2, the CDI, and kind of crushed them into one weird pack. And what you would get here would be the Nuon. So what they did was, and the funny thing is, in the lead up to the Nuon, Project X, they would show a console with a CD or a DVD player or something. It looked like a proper console. So people were like, oh, Project X. And I saw stuff like the Mario Killer at the head of these articles. You know, the usual crap. Just like the robots and Rise of the Robots are going smarter than the Street Fighter guys. It's very similar to that kind of dumbness. And so, but that didn't happen. There is no Nuon console per se.
Right.
Okay. What they did was they pulled a 3DO and they licensed the Nuon technology out to DVD manufacturers. Okay. So, for example, in North America, the Nuon was in the Samsung DVD-N501 and a bunch of other models of that type. In Europe, they had other models of that type, Samsung, Toshiba did some. There are 2 RCA models of this as well. Although apparently the RCA models, this is sort of funny. From what I read when researching this, the RCA models, while they have the Nuon labeling and can do some of the Nuon stuff, they can't play games.
Yeah. Well, there's a reason for that.
So there you go.
You know why that is, right?
Well, they probably don't have joystick ports.
Well, but they weren't on to the Nuon for the game technology. Nuon also brought something else to the DVD players.
Yes.
And this is back, way back, when to run a DVD machine, you put your DVD in, you hit play, that was it.
Yeah.
But the Nuon added menus to special DVD movies where you could select chapters, or you could have special features like zoom in onto a still shot.
Yeah.
And that was one of the big selling points to the non-gaming side of the Nuon technology. Unfortunately, total movies that could hold it, 4.
Yeah, I got a list right here.
Yeah, what are they?
In case you're interested, they're all 20th Century Fox. Another brilliant move by them. You've got The Adventures of Buckaroo Banzai Across the 8th Dimension. Wacky film, by the way. Bedazzled. I believe that's got Elizabeth Hurley in it. Because I saw one of the features that the Nuon has. It's like all the scenes where she's hot listed together. Dr. Dolittle 2.
Yep.
And Planet of the Apes, the weird, not that good 2001 remake from Tim Burton, which I didn't like that much. Listen, don't screw with Planet of the Apes.
I think that was
Rod
a fine
Serling
movie.
was involved in that.
Anyway, so it had DVD menus, and that was a big thing. That was a big way to get these manufacturers on board. It flopped. It flopped harder than the console part.
Yeah. So the funny thing, let's spell it out. The Nuon was a chipset placed in a DVD player. That's what that was. That's what it ended up being.
Yeah.
It was a gaming chipset and a couple controller ports inside a DVD. Okay. And so, if you on the surface, this is not the worst idea. With a but. Okay. This was when people were buying DVD players. Okay. If you could sell them.
This was a DVD boom.
Right. If you could say, listen, you could go buy a DVD player, or you could get this DVD player that not only has special DVD technology, but can also play games for the kids, and it's not that much more, you know, what a deal, right? The problem is, no one knew what the heck this was. You know, we had, when DVD players first came out, games are on them. There was Dragon Slayer and Space Ace.
Well,
and stuff
later down the line, yeah.
But I mean, there wasn't that long before you could play games, but they were like movie games. They weren't like proper games, right? And so the Nuon was trying to actually have proper games. That was its shtick. Well, shtick failed, and the main reason is no one knew anything about this because they didn't market it for anything really. I mean, they didn't get any. I looked for magazine reviews and stuff. EGM wouldn't touch this thing with a 10-foot clown pole after that Project X thing fell through. And what are you going to do in your magazine? Review the game and put it, and this plays on this DVD player, but not this one, and that one, but not this one. A total of 8 games were released. I'm going to go over the list.
Well, before you do that, I want to go over why. It's not that they just didn't push this as the reason why it failed. They committed the ¡1 cardinal sin. They did not have a standard package for this thing, because you had Nuon controllers. Some of them had 2 analog sticks and looked like a Nintendo 64 controller. Some of them had pads with no analog sticks. Some had shoulder buttons, some didn't. Some only had 2 buttons, some had 4 buttons or 6 buttons. All the controllers are different. That means there are some Nuon systems out there that can't play a game because it doesn't have the right controller. And this was also region locked.
Yeah.
So there are games, there's a game out there that you have to have a Korean Nuon with the proper controller to play it.
Yeah.
You can't do that.
It was mad.
It is often said, whatever a console packs with, whatever it ships with, controller, gun, whatever it is, that's what people program to, because that's what the majority of the market's going to have. which means if you program for the majority, you've got the most chance of making money, right? So they took that concept and said, screw you, do whatever you want. We're just in this to sell games, because that was their shtick. That was their selling point. They wanted other people to make the hardware, to push the hardware, which no one did, and then they could go in and make the software, but the hardware manufacturers weren't making any money off the software.
Yeah.
Zero. So they got no cut. They took all the risk, and then the Nuon people were just going to sit in the background and make games. And Aaron, how many games did they make?
Well, they got 8 games.
8.
Allow me to go over the list here. I'll go over all the games that were commercially released. Okay.
Yes.
Of course, Tempest 3000, which, by the way,
the only standout hit.
It's the only game I think it's the only place you can play 3000. They went to 4000. Freefall 3050 AD, Merlin Racing, which I actually got a sequel for the PlayStation called Miracle Space Race. Have you ever heard it? Merlin Racing is sort of a they had
Mario
a game,
Kart.
They had a game on the Jag that was like the sort of the predecessor to this. It was like a ripoff of Mario Kart. Space Invaders XL, Iron Soldier 3, if you can believe that, and it looks good. The problem is, and this is the legend, and I've read this a bunch of places. They recalled it because it wouldn't work on some of the new ones, and they never issued a fix. So that game is extremely rare. Ballistic, which is one of those games you play all the time on your phone or wherever you shoot, where there's a circle of balls and you shoot one of the balls out. The next to Tetris, that one would only work on Toshiba players. And then the real rare one, Crayon Shin-Chan 3, only worked in Korea.
Yep, that was a region lock game.
Now,
unbelievable.
Here's something I thought was interesting, and this is how it ties into what Brent ended up doing. Around 2001, VM Labs released the SDK so people could do homebrew games in the new one. So there's actually, I'm not going to go with a vibrant Nuon homebrew scene, but there was a homebrew scene for the new one. That's because they were like, yeah, we're taking a bath here. The problem is, if you burn some games, they would only work on a few Samsung machines and a few RCA machines. That's the only things they would work on, because they weren't, they couldn't. Other DVD players couldn't read the CDs, so that was a problem. So you can see all these problems upon problems. And this thing died a death. It's funny.
Yeah.
I watched a bunch of videos as much as I could to research this, and then did a lot of reading. And the majority of people, a lot of people that own these things, just were at a Goodwill or whatever, and we're just looking. And if you look real close, written on them, on these, you'll see the Nuon tag. And usually, because the joysticks are under like a little secret door.
Yeah.
You have to push it like a spring-loaded door. So you could own one of these for years and never ever know that you had a Nuon enabled machine, and it would just work like a normal DVD player.
By the way, you meant the ports, not the actual controller.
Yeah, the controller ports. Yeah, exactly. So it's an oddball thing. I couldn't confirm that even joysticks were sent out with this, because I saw a bunch of blister packs with joysticks in it. So I don't know if you got a joystick with this when you bought it. I would suspect you probably did not. So if you want the truth, I'd wager you had to buy that as a separate add-on when you bought the machine or when you picked one up later. But
I doubt so, because in the well, I don't know.
But the way this thing was ran,
yeah, it's possible.
So yeah, the Nuon, and the thing is, so let's step back for a moment here. We've killed this machine. This was
no, this machine killed itself.
Well, this game, when you look at the. Let me get the emulation, and I'll get into my final thoughts.
All right.
So the emulation on this, the fellow that was doing the emulation unfortunately passed away.
Yeah.
And no one else really picked up the mantle until very recently. They've started to work on it again. The emulation for this is not there, okay? You can get some things to sort of run, okay? I played every commercial game. All right, I'm going to go through
Well, you ran every commercial game.
I attempted to run every commercial game. I could not get Tempest 3000 to go past where the game would start.
Correct.
It would load up the menus and stuff. Freefall wouldn't run. Merlin Racing, you get to the point where the race starts, it dies. Iron Soldier 3 wouldn't even start. Ballistic, I couldn't even get it out so I could mount. The next Tetris, that's what I did not get hold of, or a Crayon Chin. So you may be.
You have to have the Korean BIOS.
Yeah. So basically, I played the only game that you could sort of completely play. And Brent went in a whole different direction because we had no choice.
Because the choices were limited.
So there's that. Now, with all that said, my final thought on this is not the worst idea.
Yes, it is.
No. Having if you think back, it's 2000. You're selling DVD players. You're looking for an angle. Having one that has a built-in chipset this thing can play some decent-looking stuff. It's not like it's garbage. I mean, there's some good-looking stuff in here. You know, this looks a lot better than Jag.
Also, you know how they marketed this, the little bit of marketing that they did, right?
Someone marketed this?
Yeah. You know, you've got your Nintendo, that's 8-bit, right?
Yeah.
Garbage.
Yeah.
16-bit Super Nintendo, not anything. Sega's 32X, trash.
Yeah,
Nintendo 64, we ain't doing that. Neuron 128-bit.
Yeah. Well,
they marketed this as the first 128-bit system.
The articles I read, they when they were talking about Project X, they didn't want to assign numbers to it because they got burned at Atari. And they said that. Like, listen, we took a bath doing that.
But you can find advertisement that's like the 128-bit system.
I guess what I'm saying is this thing could have been a capable gaming machine of its era. Right now, you've got to consider it was going up against the PlayStation 2 and the Dreamcast.
Yeah.
Now, so another mistake they made is they released this thing to get the jump on the PlayStation, much like the Dreamcast did. To get the jump on the PlayStation 2, they released this thing before the PlayStation 2. Okay. In fact, Kurlik mentioned that they released this in the summer, which is a real bad time to release consoles, but they wanted to get it out ahead of them. But again, if you release a console and you don't tell anyone, does anyone know about it? The answer is no, is the answer.
Yeah.
This got no press.
Zero.
And so, Paul mentions he was hoping Tibbetts would work for us. Well, it does. I was hoping that too, Paul. So I guess we just go ahead and get into it, Brent, what we ended up picking. So we had a couple choices, and I mean literally a couple.
Now, you played some other homebrew stuff, right?
Very little.
Yeah,
by this time I was tired, so tired.
I played a couple puzzle games.
Yeah.
That were, they looked sub PlayStation, but the concepts were, puzzly. They're puzzle games. It's one of those move on a grid, but sometimes the grid's slippery, or when you go over the grid, like the pieces fall.
Yeah.
I played a breakout game that was just the worst. And then I end up. Are we doing me first?
No, I'm actually leading the day, but you can go
first. That makes no sense.
Since you build yours, let's just get right into you.
Yeah.
Tell the people what you're up to.
I ended up going with Decaying Orbit.
Decaying Orbit.
Yes, and this is brought to us, a homebrew brought to us by the Dragon Shadow Industries.
That's right.
Now, Aaron, the
cool
most interesting part of this game is Dragon Shadow Industries. So we're going to talk about them for just a second. Dragon Shadow Industries is Scott Cottier and David DeWitt, and they are your typical basement manufacturing crew. They said, you know what?
Bedroom coders.
That's it. And we're going to go.
Manufacturing crew.
What? That's
what we got in the States. We don't have bedroom coders. We've got basement manufacturing crew. Go on.
That kind of sounds druggy, doesn't it?
Yes, it does. Idiot.
But these were folks. They came from good backgrounds. They came from NVIDIA. They worked at NVIDIA, and they had actually worked on the Nuon a little bit.
Yeah.
So they had some insider knowledge. They said, you know what, we're going to go and take a shot at this. We're going to start making our own games. And they toyed around with a lot of games. Nothing made it to completion, really, including Decaying Orbit. But Decaying Orbit got to the most playable state.
That's all we're looking for in this. It's all we could give you.
Yeah, they also released the Yorzy Classics, which I could not get to run, but it was part of the package that you gave me. they also released a game called Mega Gun, and this is all on the Nuon, Mega Gun was actually for the C64. So they actually weren't just for the Nuon, they had some knowledge on outside things. But they wanted to code for this because, like I said, they had sort of the inside track. They were a part of the Nuon team before it went out into the public and died a horrible death. And they said, you know what? I think maybe we can do something with this.
Yeah.
They couldn't. And it's unfortunate. Decaying Orbit is actually based on a PlayStation game, and it very, very loosely based.
Is the PlayStation game an actual released title? Like, was it a commercial title that was released on?
I would assume so. They never actually go out and say that. It just said it was originally developed for the PlayStation.
All right.
So probably not. Since it's worded like that, probably not actually released.
You had trouble researching this PD game on the Nuon?
Yeah,
and the information sketchy? What? Stunning.
So, in Decaying Orbit, and I'm going to try to recant this story, Aaron, as best I can. That's right.
Recant means you're going to lie. You're taking back something you said.
Well, trust me. I wish I could.
Oh, man.
You are part of a space colony of 5 different tribes, and resources are running thin. So you are trying to establish trade routes to these other planets to try to bolster, the team, so to say. And think lunar lander, but you're in space, and you're not flying into the atmosphere of these planets. You're literally a ship launching off a planet, and then you just land on another round orb that is a planet.
More of something like Star Control's fighting area. It's where it felt like that.
Okay, yeah. But very spread out.
Much lamer.
There was some scrolling.
Yeah, that was surprising.
But not a ton of it when you're hopping from planet to planet. And there's other objectives, right? Sometimes you need to go to a bunch of communication beacons, and you have to fly over them before you go to the planet.
Yeah.
There are
shoot them.
No.
I shot mine.
No, the communication beacons you're not supposed to shoot. You're supposed to pass over them.
I shot them
and collect them.
It gave me the money. That's all I care.
Sometimes there are enemies, and you have to shoot your weapons and kill the enemies.
Now those I flew over. I'm just kidding.
And there are nebulas that you go through, and then they give you different effects.
Yeah.
Some slow your ship down. You mess with your controls, that sort of stuff. This is a competent game.
You're really struggling here.
In this sense of you can play this.
This is quite the description you're laying down here.
The graphics are passable, I guess.
Would you say they're on par with most PlayStation 2 games?
No. This is
like you could have put this on the Amiga easily.
Yes, that exactly.
Possibly the C64.
This it's sub Amiga graphics.
Yeah.
The controls are weird. It's just you have left
start control.
You have left thruster and right thruster to rotate your ship, and you can hit both thrusters to slow down, that sort of thing. By the way, before I forget this, did you ever crash into a planet?
Well, yes. You bounce. Off the planet.
Because I landed what I thought was kind of hard sometimes, but it always allowed me to live.
No. Going to the gold planet, you just run into it at full speed.
Okay.
But on, the stuff that's floating around in the middle, you can just bounce off. You just see me. By the way, anytime that I generate the footage for this show, it's rare. So you're looking at it. This is footage of me playing this game. It's because I try to get footage from anywhere else, but I have to do it myself. It's a bad time. So this is me actually playing the game.
So Decaying Orbit. What?
Are you starting over?
This is it's For the Nuon, this is probably one of the best games on the system.
It's got a rep of being one of the best games.
Okay?
Yeah.
For the Nuon, this is probably one of the best games. This is definitely the most involved game for the Nuon that I played.
Yeah.
Because you've got ship upgrades, you've got money.
Allegedly.
There are different controls. We had a lot of problems with this game crashing.
Yeah.
You would get 3 or 4 levels in, and the whole system would just crash.
Yeah.
And then, I tried, and I'm sure you did as well. It was just something that I don't know if the emulator, because the emulator is from 2007.
It's recently been updated-ish to the point where you can play something.
Yeah.
But like there was a good while where nothing played nothing.
I think let's say, Aaron, if this game was released at a decent speed, because this plays kind of slow. Probably because of the emulation. Yeah. Probably because it's on the Nuon. But if this released on, say, I don't know, the Amiga would be a perfect system for this. I could play this and enjoy it. If it played well with all the seeming upgrades and stuff that they have. I
don't mind the taste. That's what you remind me of. Come on.
I'm trying not to kill this.
Listen,
please.
I'm jumping in here.
All right.
So, Brent screwed around with that. Here's the gimmick. You're a ship. You start on a planet. The planet you're going to has just like a targeting thing around it. And the goal of this thing is to go to that planet and touch it. That's the goal. First, a couple rounds, that's all you do. Just drive there. Well, then they also add stuff in between.
Yeah.
Sometimes there's meteors and stuff. Sometimes there's a little nebula, like you said. Sometimes aliens come out, you've got to shoot them. Sometimes you've got to shoot beacons, you get extra money. But it always ends up with you getting to that planet. I got through 4 stages of this. Now, if you read the documentation on it, which is built into the game, which I appreciated.
Yeah.
It says at some point you get to a store where you can upgrade. I'm pretty sure that's where the game crashes, is when the store opens up, because that's as far as I could get. All right. The thrusting on this is sort of asteroid style or star control style, where or like you said, a lunar lander style, where you thrust back and forth. But if you read the docs later on, you're moving your energies around using the shoulder buttons, too much different stuff that we never got to that point. So with all that said, I feel like we're sort of, I don't want to say we're under-servicing this game, because it's never been serviced, ever. So just by the fact that we're talking about it means it's being over-serviced. Because this game, like I said, you can't find any footage of it at all. And what footage we've got is what I shot on this kind of crummy emulator.
Yeah, and in fact, my run-in with this...
here's where it crashed, by the way.
Yeah.
If you're watching the video.
My emulation looks a little bit better than yours. I don't know why that is, but it does, because we use the same stuff.
I saw that the author of this was talking about this had been, to port this to the Nuon, he literally halved the resolution, like everything cut in half, because apparently at some point this ran on 640 by 480. He cut it in half for this. Everything was cut in half for this release.
Something to note: Decaying Orbit was released as a demo disc in the UK PlayStation Magazine as a pack-in.
There you go. So if you want to play a full version of this, it's funny because I looked up Decaying Orbit and didn't find any. So I don't know if there's any video of the PlayStation version or not. Might be worth looking up. Also, if you're a fan of long scenes of text floating across the screen, this is the game for you. And this game's all about the floating text. There's tons of it.
There is a lot of text.
It makes the Star Wars scroll at the beginning look like you're reading something about a fortune cookie. I mean, this thing goes on and on. This is your typical homebrew guy where they're super passionate about the project. They got a lot to say,
Yeah. If you are interested in checking out Decaying Orbit, you can visit their website at dragonshadow.com. Unfortunately, it looks kind of abandoned. The last update was November of 2011. So I wish these guys the best. I hate that I didn't enjoy this more, because this is exactly the kind of passion project I love to support and I love to get out there. I will actually be looking up the PlayStation version of this. I bet that it is fun. I really do.
You may be stunned, Brent, to learn that not only are there no reviews of this game, but there's no reviews from the Discord people. No one. I don't blame you, because I just figured out how to run these games.
It was a tough sell.
If you weren't one of the ARG staff, you probably haven't done this too often, where you had to go through this much trouble to get something to run. I will say all the images and the homebrews are out there. Just a matter of you getting them to work.
Yeah.
So I think you did the best as you could there, the Brent on Decaying Orbit. This game has some potential, and you can see by reading all the docs, like I said, where you can.
It was very involved.
You can change all the system's energies and stuff. So there's probably more to it. Hopefully, now that this emulator has been picked back up, we'll get a little more action on that game.
Agreed.
So that right there you go. Now, how do I follow that up?
You can't.
See, that's why you should have been the main event right there.
Well, yours was a commercially released game.
Yeah, so, you know, I watched, we're coming off of the taping of Amigos with Boat and the Brent. And one of the things I noticed as I laid there in a stupor, just getting back from vacation, was the fact that they were bad-mouthing Space Invaders non-stop. Talking about how unfun it was, what a dud game that they hated. Never go back and play that dud, they said. And I thought to myself, you scumbags. And so before I even knew that this was the only commercial game I could get to run, I'd already picked it. Because by God, I'm going to put some respect on Space Invaders' name. I picked Space Invaders XL. Space Invaders XL for the big guys. That's the way I like to do it.
All right.
Space Invaders, the Brent. So we've all played Space Invaders, I'm sure by now.
Yeah.
But if you're living under a rock, this thing crept into Japan. Space Invaders landed in Japan in the 70s, took over the country, and was a phenomenon, something like a phenomenon, if I may say. And was released to great praise all over the world after it started in Japan. And, of course, you've heard all the sad baloney about how they had a yen shortage, coin shortage, which I always heard it was a falsehood.
Yeah.
But, you know, there's no falsehood in saying that Space Invaders
big deal.
Was a national phenomenon in Japan. Pretty big deal over here in the States as well. And also really kicked off modern video games with a bang. I mean, really, this was one of the ones that really, this was the big, I'd say this is the first big blockbuster of gaming would have been, I mean, if you don't count Pong.
It's up there.
You know, so Space Invaders. So this is a game that's held in high regard all over, but especially in Japan. And so you get a lot of releases and packages in Japan with historical Space Invaders games, that sort of thing. And that's what you're looking at here with Space Invaders XL. Space Invaders was published on the Nuon by VM Labs. So they ended up publishing, I think, every single game. And developed by Matahari Studios Limited and in conjunction with Taito. I looked up Matahari just for fun. So get this, Brent. Matahari, a studio founded in '99, Australian game development crew. They had studios in Jakarta, Indonesia, and Manila, in the Philippines. And they were the ones that worked on this. They worked for a lot of other companies back in the day, Codemasters, EA, Sony, and Take-Two. So it's not like these guys just fell off the turnip truck. They'd done some solid work. They were sold to Kuji Entertainment in October 2008, and that was the end of them. And then Kuji, I should say, shut down in 2010, so that was the end of them there.
That's the way it happens.
And so the last studio in Jakarta, which is, you don't think of Jakarta as a big place for gaming. I think that's interesting. But on February 4th, 2010, Jakarta studio shut down, and that was the end of Matahari Studios. So if you look at Space Invaders on the Nuon,
yes,
what you've got here is it's a love letter to what Space Invaders was.
Oh, okay.
All right?
That's what we're calling it.
No,
listen,
all right. It's exactly what it is. This thing gives you a lot of options to play different games of Space Invaders. I can see you're going to be combative. I don't know why. I don't know why you're being combative against Space Invaders. This thing gives you a lot of options, and this is one of the first home Space Invaders to give you options. And I saw this pointed out by a couple people, and they're right. This gives you options that previously were only available in like the 2600s outstanding version of Space Invaders.
Right.
If you've played the Atari 2600 version of Space Invaders, you got the option to do stuff like have their shots come diagonally or come down in weird patterns.
Yeah.
They also could turn off the Space Invaders. You make it invisible. You could also have
that's the dumbest thing ever.
No, it's not. It's fun.
No, it's dumb.
Also, you could also have you could increase the speed. You could also have the shields, the bunkers move, which is neat. Again, that's another aspect. Listen, I thought at the time the 2600 Space Invaders was the definitive Space Invaders, and it was the definitive one for a long time because of the hundreds of options.
Yeah, no, I agree.
For 1 and 2 player games. So
you got to do something to spice it up.
A lot of the other things you can do on here are you can change when you get extra life. You can change the maximum score, which is to make it in line with the arcade, because you can hit a maximum in the arcade. You can turn that on and off. You can also pick which level you want to try first, which is nice. So if you're one of these people that gets bored, listen, you and Bo talk about how you sit there. It's kind of boring. You could actually set this to start at level 10, make it a lot more exciting. If you wanted to. This thing has several game modes. You've got your original Space Invaders mode, which gives you the four classic machines. You can pick which one you want. The monochrome version. There's a version that had a color overlay, which is a colored film that's set over the screen. Then you had the big dog, which was the mirrored background version, which was the beautiful blue and red cabinet.
Absolutely.
With the mirrored background of like a planetoid underneath.
Kind of the classic, if you will.
And that's your old magician's trick that reflects the background up behind the image. Real cool. And then lastly, you can just have the version of Space Invaders that was just in color.
Yeah.
They actually released a color version. I always thought that was kind of, well, I mean, I guess you had to do it. Of course, Space Invaders, a game that had multiple cabinets, and including some real striking ones of the aliens on the side are throwing the missiles down. I own a Space Invaders cocktail that my son uses as his desk. It's been in there forever. Me and Brent picked it up for a song back in the day. We ripped all that because the Space Invaders stuff stopped working. So we took it. We ended up using it as a MAME cabinet for a long time. I'll do something with it, but all the Space Invaders stuff's still there. And I always thought that was kind of neat. And I told Luke, you got to be the only kid on Earth that's got an arcade machine for a desk. And so I do, and I enjoy that. I'll be honest with you. So that's sort of a conceit of mine. So aside from playing, and by the way, I've played every version of this on the Nuon emulator. Not every version of this is playable. All right, I'll tell you that right now. The mirror image one is playable. The overlay one is not. That one, that's the one I couldn't get to work. Okay,
I just went straight to the yeah.
So I'm just saying, you're not going to get them all to work.
It's spent very little time there.
You also have a battle mode. Battle mode it's like sort of a head-to-head. There's basically two sets of Space Invaders games on the screen where you compete against another player or the computer, and there are 3 difficulty levels. You can play best of 3 or best of 5. And you can also enable the combat option, which allows you to fire an inertia cannon shot at your opponent. So you can actually drop something on your opponent. This reminded me of sort of like those Tetris versus things, where you basically the better you do, the more you screw your opponent. This looked good. I played this against the computer. I did not get to play another human, but I thought, did you try the battle mode?
Yeah, I mean, the way this works is imagine you have a half screen, right?
Yeah.
And the invaders are coming down, and one of the invaders is a color.
Yeah.
And if you shoot that invader, it sends a portion of your invaders to your opponent.
Yeah.
Which makes them have their stack pushed down. And then if the spaceship comes out, the UFO at the top, if you shoot it, it swaps boards, which that's kind of dumb, but whatever.
I thought it was really cool.
No,
actually, I thought that was kind of a neat effect.
But
it's very Tetris. It's like they took a Tetris approach to it with the player versus player Tetris, and I liked it. I thought it was a neat addition, frankly, if you want the truth.
It was an addition, yeah.
And then lastly, you've got time attack mode. This is basically an updated version of Space Invaders.
with Frogger for some reason.
Yeah, you have unlimited lives, but and you're playing to get the best time you can. That's the gimmick on this.
Yeah.
The updated graphics on this are disappointing. You know, I'm a big fan of some of the Space Invaders sequels. You know, especially the one on the Amiga. You know, the Space Invaders of the year, Space Invaders 90, whatever. Those were much more like this. Came out well after those. This is the part I like. So far, I like every part of this, but this part here is the disappointing part, because when you're used to playing something like the Space Invaders 91 or whatever, the one on the Amiga, the arcade had them, where the Space Invaders, they change it up, they make it different, they add boss battles and all that stuff.
Right.
This pales in comparison to that.
It does have different patterns.
No, it's not near, but I mean, it's just not as good looking.
Oh.
Those have cool music and sound. There's no reason why a console of the caliber of what we've seen on here. All right, I know that sounds jokey, but I mean, it played like a lot of good games. I mean, you just think it had capabilities. This is a low end. This part here was low end. I can understand wanting to keep the other parts of the game as close to the arcade as you can, because that's what you're buying.
Right.
But this part here, where you're buying something new that's supposed to be jacked up and more fun, you expect something that takes advantage of the system in some way, and this takes advantage of the system in no way.
Yeah.
Like, this part is lamer than what your game looked like by a long shot, and I don't really think it improved the look of the game that much, if I'm honest.
Well, I mean,
it just looked
they had
dopey.
they had like firework effects when you shot them.
I don't like it. I guess that I didn't like that part of the game. So that's the game. So with all that said, what do I think of this? Well, I think if you're a nostalgic Space Invaders player, that this is a fun game to go back to play, to re-experience the various arcade games in the various ways you can. All right, not everyone is nostalgic for that stuff, but certainly in Japan, this would get over. And I can see where it'd get over in other places, but let's face facts. Taito hooked up with Matahari here to bang out a cheap, easy to produce game for this questionable console, and that's what they got. They didn't take any. They didn't stretch themselves on this. They didn't excel themselves, and they certainly didn't add anything that I would call viable or interesting to the Space Invaders game series. What were your thoughts?
So you're saying that you feel that this was a quick cash grab?
I think this was a tepid step into an icy pool that they weren't sure they were going to enjoy it, you know. And so don't get me wrong. If you want to play various versions of Space Invaders, this is 100% fine. Okay, I had no problem with it. I played every version I could. It was fine. I thought the battle mode was fun. I was okay. It wasn't like they didn't reinvent the wheel.
No.
All right, but the time attack mode blows. That was and so when I looked over all the options of this, I got excited. But that part let me down, because one of the things I demand from a Space Invaders title from 2001, mind you, I want action tonight. I don't want the same old, same old. There's nothing here that you haven't seen 100 times before, with the exception of the additional Atari stuff that they mixed in, which I do like that. But there wasn't enough here. So would I recommend this to a Space Invaders fan? Yeah. I wouldn't recommend it to pretty much anyone else. What did you think?
I was shocked to find out that this was an original game.
Yeah.
This isn't ported anywhere else.
And never. This is the only place you could play Space Invaders XL.
And the same goes for Tempest 3000.
Yeah.
And a couple other games are exclusive to the Nuon. The Nuon got as many exclusive games as they did games. It was crazy. Does this play a good game of Space Invaders? Are you sure? I mean, yes. What does that mean to me? Nothing. I don't care. I don't care. Is the battle mode something that's going to pull me in and make me go play? No.
I don't know if we both played that.
No, it's not involved enough. It's not involved enough.
But I mean, you could get some fun.
Aaron, it was a ticket machine level of multiplayer.
Well, I'm just saying it's something that's sort of fresh at this era. That was not. I didn't see anything before like that.
So would I recommend this? Hey, if you want to play, if you are all Space Invader out, right? You've played every variant. Knock yourself out. Yeah. This is Space Invaders. Literally, everyone else, stay away.
Yeah. I mean, on the Nuon, of course, this is really the only commercial game you can play through, for the most part. All right. That much said, if you've got a Nuon, I would get this, I think.
Because, if you've got a Nuon, buy it all.
By the way, keep in mind that, think about this. You bought a Nuon. You picked up 2 joysticks. And battle mode is what you get to do. You know, because I looked over these games. It didn't look like there was a lot of 2-player games. I didn't see football, baseball, basketball games. I didn't see Street Fighters on here. You got a bunch of games that look like they're basically 1-player games.
Yeah.
And so this is one of the few things you could actually, you could actually play 2 people on. I thought it was okay. Don't get me wrong, that part, but I was disappointed as a package.
Now, Aaron, here's the question. Yeah. I don't know how much the Nuon sold for, and I'm sure it was varying. I think
it was over $300.
I think the only price tag I saw for any of them was for a Super DVD player that also had it, was like $600.
Yeah.
Did you see how much the games for these sold for?
I did, actually. I made a note of a few of the games. I will tell you right away. I did look up what my game and what the console itself. Now, keep in mind, when I say console, it's not a console. So what you're getting is the DVD player that has the Nuon technology. To play game, okay? Yeah. So you can get a Nuon DVD player. I saw them going for $100 all the way up to $350. Of course, these are all used, obviously. Yeah. But the controller alone, one controller of various types. The cheapest I saw a controller sell for was $182.
Woo!
And I saw them going for up to and including, and these are sale prices, okay? These aren't like someone out there fishing. $420 for a controller. Space Invaders, which is, I would not say is the most common, but it's not the least common, not by a long shot.
Right.
If you wanted to buy Space Invaders, they were out there. There were none currently for sale, but some had recently sold. These are sale prices. $277 and $345. So, but people are collecting these. They're not getting this because they love Space Invaders XL.
Yeah, when this released back in 2001, games sold for $30.
Yeah, but that really, you're pushing it with some of these. So,
yeah,
you know, so.
Well, I'm sorry, that's what Space Invaders sold for. I couldn't find prices on anything else.
So your game, of course, was free. It's interesting to me that towards the middle of the run of this thing, because this thing only ran until it was discontinued between 2003 and 2004. So you only had about a 3.5 year run of these Nuons, and it's amazing. I looked at all the different. I mean, you had Motorola, RCA, Samsung, Toshiba, all making these
big names,
and so. Like I said, I don't hate the idea of a chip built into this thing. If it's cheap, they can pull it off. But you can't have a game console built into a DVD player. You can do the inverse, which is sort of what the PlayStation 2 did. It's like, listen, we got all the games. Oh, by the way, we're the cheapest DVD player around. That you got something. Yeah. But you can't say, listen, this is the best DVD player around. And oh, by the way, we play games.
Yeah.
No one's hearing that. You know, and
especially when there are no. I mean, 3 years, 8 games released. That's horrible.
Yeah, well, I mean,
horrible.
They just listen. They knew that the writing was on the wall on this thing early. So the poor Atari guys, who probably put out something that was fairly competent, ultimately found themselves engineering a bigger dud than the Jag or the Jag CD. I mean, that's
it is what it is.
That's a bitter pill to swallow, Brent.
You know, Aaron, if you had a Nuon, right?
Yeah.
Do you think that the folks over at Retro Rewind would be willing to try to repair one of those?
I would wager Frank would give it a shot. And Frank probably has worked on the Nuon because he's been in the business for about 1 million years.
So if you're saying if you had a Decaying Nuon, maybe it doesn't have the orbit it used to have, would you send him over to RetroRewind.ca to see if he could fix it?
Trust me, he would invade the space of the innards of that thing, and he'd be the only hit on the machine, if you know what I mean. You know, I was just telling Brent while I was on vacation, I came that close to picking up a Virtual Boy, and It had a cracked lens, some other crap in it. And the only reason I even thought about picking this up was I ain't going to fix it. Bam, RetroRewind.ca. That's why. Because I know Frank can fix anything that's fixable. We saw Frank at BoatFest fixing stuff in real time, including working on stuff for us. So we're not just the guys that are out here pitching for some advertisers, putting us a few bucks. We're like Cy Sperling. We use the product, you know.
That's it.
We had to use it because we knew Frank's the best guy around. Do you have a classic Commodore machine? I'm talking to your C64, C16s.
Ooh.
Even you got your Amigas, your 128s, maybe classic Commodore disk drives, things that aren't working or need recap. You don't want to get in there and do that yourself.
Heck no.
That's a piece of classic. That's an artifact of a bygone era, and you're a fumbling idiot. You don't want to get in there and fool with it.
It's
You
true.
bring in a professional, brother. And listen, I did soldering for IBM. I'm not the biggest slouch. I ain't fixing my own stuff. I'm sending it to Frank. Why? 2 reasons. Frank is the best when it comes to repair, and Frank is cheap. He does it on the cheap, brother.
He is. It's
ridiculous. He
ridiculous.
cuts you a deal, and on top of everything else, shipping, not too bad. Why? Because he's in North America. He's up in Canada. So he makes it easy for you. You get hold of him, you ship it up there, he takes care of it, he ships it back. It's a done deal, brother. On top of that, Frank sells peripherals. He's got doodads out the yin-yang. Do you need something to get proper video signals out of your C64? He's got it. Do you want to get HDMI out of your Amiga 1000? He can take care of that for you. If you want some acceleration for your Amiga 600, bam, it's a done deal. Do you need a Kung Fu Flash? Bam, he's got that for your C64. Do you need an SD card solution for your TRS-80 car computer? He's even got that. You got to get that, by the way. Frank is a one-stop shop for your retro computing needs. Our good buddy, we highly recommend you head over to RetroRewind.ca and have a look at what Frank has on offer.
In fact, Aaron, I was so inspired by Retro Rewind.
Yeah.
I added a Retro Rewind wheel piece.
Holy smokes.
And you know what that wheel piece represents, Aaron?
I don't.
If that hits, we remove everything from the wheel
What?
for just a spin, and we fill it with just retro pieces.
Oh, aren't they
And
all
then
retro pieces?
No. I mean, blast from the past are Retro Rewinds. So we have got, I think we have cleared most of the danger off the wheel. So hopefully we are going to hit some good stuff, some happy stuff.
I am apprehensive. Your previous couple spins have been dog ugly. So give us something good. What's our Retro Rewind piece? Is it the Odyssey?
The official Retro Rewind piece is the Odyssey 2.
All right, go for it.
I'm gonna clear the area.
Yeah, because you'll break.
Let me tell you
this
something.
stuff.
I'm gonna spin this like it has never been spun before.
Give it a whirl. Man, nice one. You're gonna break that thing one of these days. We're going to use the remedial backup wheel. Oh no, the chat.
We have chat subject choice.
No. Now listen, chat. We love you. Please don't screw us. Tell them what this is, Brent.
All right, we are going to give chat just a few moments to throw out some suggestions of a subject that they would like to see next week on the show on ARG
So
Presents.
you're telling me the chat can just shout out subject ideas right now in the chat room. All they've got to do is shout them out, and we're going to pick the one that's most popular.
We're going to pick one at random, and that way everyone has a chance. So,
right.
Aaron, we're giving chat just a moment here to
All
throw
right.
out some suggestions.
All right.
We took a look at the Nuon. Are you considering purchasing one of these devices?
I am. I don't know if you were joking or not, but I did look up what one would cost. I found one with a joystick and some games that was in the couple $100 range. Now, it was still big bid on, and I'm sure it will go into orbit, but if it was to stay there, there's a chance. The problem is, it's like a Pippin. Like, they're out there, but I mean, there's so little to do with them.
Yeah.
And this thing would set, like, on a shelf and the thing is, you couldn't be like, look at that, because no one would even look at it.
Why are you showing me a DVD player?
It's like, oh, I've got a box Nuon. That looks like a Toshiba NR816 DVD player. Well, it plays games. How many games? 8?
Oh, really? Well, do you have the whole library? Oh, no. In fact, I can only play 3 of the 8 games because of the region and controller issues.
There you go. So, no, I probably won't buy it. It's even more useless than the Virtual Boy with the cracked lens or whatever. But I did look into it. Because every time we do this show, it's not good for me. I've got a sew crate sitting in there because of this show. It's not, no one, and I paid too much for the sew crates. We got some good suggestions here. I'm looking at these. You guys are doing a great job. These aren't dumb suggestions. Oh, that's a good one too. Curtis has got a good one. Now, how are you gonna? You're just gonna pick a random.
I am going to random number generator. We are saying that the cutoff is in 30 seconds.
30 seconds. You got 30 seconds.
Which means we need to give them a minute because of the delay.
Yeah, that's fine. Now listen, I appreciate these choices here because sometimes the chat comes up with stuff I don't like.
No one's went off the rails, as they say.
I like the Vote Fest when you weren't getting what you wanted, so you berated the crowd. That got us over. You idiot.
Oh, wait, I don't remember doing that.
You did. You're like, subject choice. Subject choice. Don't shout out since you're screaming at them.
Well, I get emotional sometimes.
Whoa, Explorer getting real obscure there. How much more time? Let's go ahead and
all right.
Let's cut it off.
Let's count it up here.
I see one,
I don't need your assistance.
All right. I know it's hard for you to count.
Put on a dress and stand over there. All right.
It's riveting radio there.
And we are going to do the.
How many do you have here?
And we're gonna get
10.
No.
Okay. Well, I didn't know.
Why do you just don't talk?
Would you you're not doing anything? Go.
You entertain the crowd, Aaron. Dance, Rummy.
Okay, that's all I got. Would you just do it?
Well, there's a slight problem with random number generating. It is an art, Aaron.
Yeah.
I am an artist.
Idiot can figure this out in less time than it's taking you.
So we are going. All right. We are going with the first selection, the first thing that came out.
Actually, did you? I didn't see you. Did you actually do something? All right, he did. Okay, I believe him. And
so it's going to be. Modern.
No, there's one above that.
No, there isn't.
Yeah, there is. I'm looking at it. Games with submarines. It's right there.
Oh, I was not in the chat for that. All right. Games with submarines.
You're an idiot.
Wow. You know what? That's pretty good.
That's Buck Owens.
Buck Owens, thank you for your suggestion.
By the way, we're going to cheat and steal all the other suggestions for pizzas to make later. So don't think to yourself, oh, I didn't get picked. That's how we do it. This is all cutting ploy for ideas. And you fell for it, suckers.
What a bunch of idiots.
Yeah, we got them this time. Didn't we? Yeah, bam. So that's next week. Games with submarines in them. That should be interesting, Brent.
Yeah.
Listen, this is one of those rare end of the shows where we've got nothing to plug. There's nothing coming up. Amigathon's over. Bowfest is over. Our thing's not till November, so we're not plugging that. So I'm going to plug some stuff that just doesn't get plugged that much. Please check out the Amigos Stream Team YouTube channel. If you haven't added that one, subscribe to it. That's where we put streams up from all of our streaming buddies. The stuff that would be lost to time. We didn't grab
some good stuff on there.
We got Happy Coding with his home cooking. As ZX Spectrum programming show, we've got our good buddy 48K Ram, who's always into all kinds of crazy stuff. We just did Macintosh demos as a show. He does teardowns, repairs. We also got our good buddy, the Flack, with his live Sprite Castle shows. We want to give a shout out to Flack's Pop, who's having some rough health time. Good luck, Mr. Flack. We hope you take it to the house and get better. We also put wrestling up there occasionally whenever we do that. So the Amigo Stream Team channel, I want to plug that. You got anything you want to plug? You got nothing. You never got nothing to plug. What? You don't do nothing. As soon as this show's over, you go back, put your under one, sit around, watch TV. It's all that's going on there.
I don't have television.
There you go. Give me a break.
I don't have any cable. I don't have any TVs in the house.
You don't have any TVs? Mm-mm. What do you watch?
I have one TV that I use as a monitor. That's it.
Man, you're really painting a picture. Yes, Mitsuyama ICC. I am beginning scheduling for International Computer Club to take place in September. September should be probably middle of the September. And I will say in October, just way far out, the return of conversations from the dark side. I won't kill it. It's sticking around. I don't care if anybody watches it or not.
The scariest thing is it's coming back.
Yeah, we're going to bring it back for October because that's what we do. So there'll be 2 or 3 shows of scary stuff. That'll be a lot of fun. Speaking of scary stuff, let's get out of here before it gets more scary. Thanks, everybody, for participating today. I hope you enjoyed and learned a little something. And if you come across a Nuon at your local Goodwill or whatever, grab that sucker. Sell it. Make a few bucks. Just look for the logo. That's all you need to look for. Till next time, it's your good boy, Amigo Aaron, whatever the heck this is. Adios.
Thanks for joining us today. We really hope you enjoyed the show. A special thank you to Duck and Styles for our vector style graphics and BarkBit for our amazing music. Would you like to help keep ARG spinning? You can do so at patreon.com/ARGpresents. Just like these fine folks. Drarlent 17, Laurent Garout, Templar Mar, Z9K9, Jerry Dennington, John Dykeman, Retroalgy, Airshack, Texas Foosballer, Sundown, O-Rom, Super Tech Boy, David Terrence, Mr. B, Roushi, Graham W. Vetke, Dave Velociraptor, Bernhardt Lucas, Steve Rasmussen, Anthony Jarvis, Bitterblitter, Pajako 6502, Kevin Bean, Andy Jones, Andy Craig, Rob Black O'Hara, Jason Warnes, Mitsuyama, Chris Foles, Frodo NL, The Slow Norris, Terry Howard, Olaf Hope, and Rolo. They all have access to our Discord channel, their name called out in the credits, and visualized in the ending scene. Have an idea for a wheel piece? You can send it to us at argpresents@mail.com.